Welcome to the ExecMBA podcast. I'm your host, Brett Twitty, and you are listening to a new episode. So in this episode of the podcast, we continue our ongoing spotlight on Executive MBA clubs and organizations with an interview with Johnny O'Boyle and Hannah Solomon. Johnny and Hannah are two leaders of the Executive MBA Entrepreneurship Club, or what is known as EMBEC, amongst our Executive MBA students. And I invited them on the podcast to talk a little bit more about their backgrounds, how they decided to pursue an MBA, what led them to Darden, the impact of their Darden experience thus far, and of course, what they have planned for the Entrepreneurship Club in the year ahead. I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. So without further ado, here's my interview with Johnny O'Boyle and Hannah Solomon. Hannah, Johnny, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having us, Brett.
Thanks, Brett. Excited to be here.
Well, it's great to have you here. How are things going? Hannah, how are you doing?
I am doing well. We are a week before our Q5 exams. So in that flurry of activity, figuring out how to study, how to review, process what we just learned in the past 2 months. But overall, pretty great. And we're at an exciting point in the program because we're halfway through. So that's definitely giving us a little energy to get through these exams.
Yeah, last time I saw the two of you, I think we were on a rooftop in Roslyn, celebrating the mid-program point for your cohort. So that was a beautiful evening. Lots of photo ops, as I gathered from looking around.
Yeah, I can't believe it took us that much time to get up on the roof of Sands family grounds. It's so beautiful, perfect skyline, perfect weather. It was a pretty fun night. Absolutely.
Johnny, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Brett. As you and I talked about, back in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I'm born and raised. So excited to be back here with my family. Just separated from the Navy about 2 weeks ago. So excited to be starting a job with Microsoft and be back home.
Feel good to be home?
Love being home. Bojangles and Cookout.
Cookout has the best milkshakes. I am jealous. We don't have that.
Yes, they do.
Yet.
I believe you can also get a side of a corn dog there.
Yep.
It's interesting to think about. I think they have a quesadilla as well as a side item. I mean, all things are possible, but Hannah, I would agree with you on the milkshake. I am probably a little bit more of a Bojangles partisan. So I'll tell you a little bit of a story before we get into this. I put my business card in one of those fish bowls and they say, hey, we'll select your, one name a month or whatever to win free breakfast for their office. I won while I was at Darden, and they brought in like 40 biscuits. And it was great. It was also a day where like a lot of people were doing file reading from home. And so if you've ever seen one person, me, try to eat 6 biscuits in one day because I didn't want any of it to go to waste, I can speak to how you feel after 3 sausage egg biscuits and 3 Cajun filet biscuits. And the answer is, well, you feel that maybe not as well as you might think. So there's too much. It's such a thing as too much of a good thing. So, well, thank you both for coming on the podcast. And it is such an exciting time for you and your classmates. It's as an admissions person, it's a thrill to get to see you go from starting the program in Charlottesville, LR1, to moving through the early quarters to where you are now, where you're moving in the second year of the program and starting to take electives in the not too distant future. And so it is, man, things fly. It really goes. You're getting ready to take quarter 5 exams, and next thing you know, you're on the downhill side, Q6, and man, graduation will be here before you know it. So, Johnny, let me start with you. Tell us a little bit more about your story. We're starting to put this together. Bojangles, the cookout enthusiast from the Queen City, but let's go beyond that.
So I had the fortunate chance to go to the Naval Academy for 4 years, and that kind of led me into a 9-year naval career in the Supply Corps. So it's basically the business arm of the Navy. Absolutely loved it. It actually gave me the chance to do a 1-month stint at Darden, fully paid for by the Navy through the Supply Corps. And that's how I kind of learned about Darden's business school. But 9 years in the Navy, Hawaii, Newport Island to DC. It was a great ride for my family and I.
All right. And how did you decide that you wanted to pursue an MBA?
So I was about a year out from separation. I had talked to a few friends who were either post MBAs or in their MBAs, and they had talked about it, that it was really a formative time for them to really learn about what they wanted to do. So for me, it was more of like still learning. I had my interests, I had what excited me, but I still was unsure the path I wanted to take post Navy. So I wanted to go the Darden route so I could learn more about what's out there, learn more from my classmates, what they're doing. And it led me to great opportunity. So.
All right. And Hannah, tell us about you.
Sure. So I'm in Jacksonville, Florida, where I pretty much grew up right outside Jacksonville in Ponte Vedra. If anyone knows of the Players Championship, it's a golf tournament. That's about our big claim to fame, and Tim Tebow. I went to University of Florida for undergrad, and after that started a career in marketing and did a little bit of sales as well, but predominantly focused on marketing for the past 10 years. I worked for a variety of technology companies and also had a couple years experience in sports marketing. And I knew that I always wanted to go back and get an MBA. My dad had gotten an MBA after his undergrad program and had given me the very good advice of work for as long as you can, get some experience under your belt, because that will only aid in your appreciation and what you'll get out of an MBA program. So I'd say about 2 or 3 years ago, I seriously started pursuing my extensive research to figure out what type of program I wanted to do, what program I felt best suited my lifestyle. I had just gotten married in 2020 and actually built a house in Jacksonville. So I knew that we weren't really in a place to uproot our life and go move somewhere where a top program would be located, because we love living in Jacksonville. So I started exploring the Executive MBA options, and Darden just kept coming up as the perfect fit for me.
Yeah, I think I remember the story right, Hannah, when you were talking to us about your journey to Darden. Your husband has a golf podcast, and one of our alums was a listener and was like, hey, I think Hannah should probably think about Darden, something like that.
Yes, I will give a shout out to Brian Alis. So my husband runs a golf media company called No Laying Up, and a big part of their following, it joins this online community called The Refuge, where this is their term, not mine. They call themselves golf sickos. They are very active on this golf community website. And when I was starting my research process to find out about different MBA programs, I thought, where a good place to source MBA information would be is a golf fan website. So I actually posted a question on the golf community board asking who had an MBA. I got about 100 responses, which was pretty awesome. But the number one that stood out to me was Brian's. And he gave me his phone number, said, call me, and talked to me for about an hour, and ended up connecting me with a few other of his classmates. And I mean, they pretty much immediately sold me on Darden and their experience. And I think that's pretty powerful if your alum can sell and talk to the program as strongly as they all did. It sounded like a place I wanted to be.
I appreciate your indulging that story related question, but it's such an amazing thing. Like, I'm trying to think about like the chances of like your husband having this whole like golf venture, that one of our alums is a listener, that you post there on the community board, that he responds, that you follow up with him. I mean, like, you start doing the like analysis of this. It seems unlikely, but at the same time, talking to people on the podcast, there's so many of these kind of connections that happen where a Darden alum says, oh, you got to do this. And next thing you know, that prospective student has talked to about 5 people and they've all said, you got to do this. And so thank you for sharing that, Hannah. So the occasion for this conversation is, well, every time there are new club leaders in the Executive MBA program, we like to invite the new club leadership on the podcast. And we are making the rounds here. This is the annual tradition. You are 2 of the leaders for the Executive MBA Entrepreneurship Club. Newly appointed. But at the same time, before we get there, I want to make sure we talk a little bit about where you are in the program and how you've grown and developed over this time. So Hannah, When you think about where you are now versus, say, where you were when you started the program, go all the way back to Charlottesville, August of 2021, LR1. How do you feel like you've grown and developed during these 10 or so months?
Oh gosh, I think that's kind of hard to put into words, which I think we've done a good bit of reflecting up to this point as well. And Darden really emphasizes the need to stop and think about what you've learned. And we're so rushed to get on to the next quarter and the next class and the next thing that I'm grateful they have given us that opportunity to sit and reflect. I think the biggest change I've seen in myself is my openness to new ideas and people's experiences and learning from my classmates. I mean, that's what I was wanting out of the program, but I can tell the way I have approached topics and the way I think about things and the way I listen and absorb what my classmates are sharing in class is so powerful. And it comes from appreciation of the diversity that we have of our class, of the wide-ranging skills and backgrounds and personalities that we have. I think Darden emphasizes that their focus is developing leaders of people. It doesn't matter what role you have. If you want to be the leader of an organization, at the end of the day, you're a human managing human who's selling to humans or supporting humans. And it's this really people-focused approach to business, which I just think is so important. And, I'm so appreciative to have exposure to an education like this. But I just think I totally already think about business problems in a different context and not so worried about what I don't know, because I know I now have a classroom full of people that I can lean on to figure out what the answer is.
Well, I appreciate your points around human aspects of business. I think oftentimes when we talk to prospective students, thinking about coming to business school, there's a lot of focus on technical stuff. And in my experience being around executive MBA students or just MBA students at Darden generally, there's a real focus on people and, not just customers and employees, but also you as a person, and really doing that self-work to understand who you are, your strengths, what you add, but also where your blind spots might be, how people perceive you, and kind of being mindful of those things as you communicate and interact with others. That's one of the things that I really love. People come to get an MBA and they actually do all this like interior work about who they are. Surprise, but that's how it goes.
And it's tough, I think, especially our professors joke quite often that we're a room of very type A, high performing people. And I know for me personally, sometimes it's hard to stop and think about the emotional side of business. I'd rather just focus on facts and figures. But at the end of the day, that's not what is most important. So I've been so pleasantly surprised at how much emphasis Darden places on those, what they call softer skills, but they're really so important.
I know we got to come up with another terminology for soft skills, because it makes them sound diminished.
Right.
And this is the stuff that makes a huge difference for leaders and managers, right?
Right,
So,
totally. I'm in marketing. Let me work on rebranding that for you. I'll let you know.
All right. When anybody brings this up in the future, I'll just say, we've got someone working on it.
Yeah, it's a work in progress.
Absolutely. All right, Johnny, same question for you. Here you are, 10-ish months or so, approaching the Q5 exams, quarter 5 exams. When you look back on this journey, how have you grown and developed over this period of time?
So I think I've changed a bunch as a manager. So I've had the fortunate opportunity in my last job in the Navy to lead a team of about 14, all SMEs in what they do. And I would say the year of being at Darden, it helped me slow down. I definitely would say I was quick to jump into problems and try and answer them, with a teammate or by myself. But I will say a lot of the classes just taught me to slow down. Big picture, how can I, what are some of the questions that can really unlock the potential of some of my teammates, some of my direct reports, and how can I lean on them to really get a problem we're trying to figure out. And this is problems like, how do we transport, Connex boxes all the way to Bahrain, Guam, different places in the country, especially with all the supply chain issues we had going on. There were a lot of questions that I didn't even know what to ask. But I will say, being an MBA just kind of really helped me slow things down, especially within my last job in the Navy. So it's been really great so far. And I'll say the power of the network, kind of what Hannah was talking about, the ability to really reach out to this group of, 140 plus teammates at Darden in my cohort and be able to ask questions real quick on Discord, which is the app we all use, and to really get at some of the things, whether it's for work, personally, or for my family. It's been absolutely amazing.
Well, that's great. And, one of the things that we've heard, I would say a lot this year from students, and maybe the past couple of years is, and this always would come up, but I don't know if maybe the pandemic has shifted also a little bit of how people are thinking about this, in that it might be a little bit more difficult to meet people right now, and to kind of make some of these connections socially. That kind of social aspect, meeting 135 new people and forming friendships and gaining a community, that's always been part of the proposition here at Darden. Let's be very clear about that. But it does feel like it's even more top of mind for people, just given where we are, this current context. We've heard that a lot, particularly from our prospective students recently. So I appreciate you both noting the power of the community here. So let's talk a little bit more about the Executive MBA Entrepreneurship Club. Johnny, there's lots of things you could do in your second year of the program. You could just keep doing coursework and just be a student, but you decided to be a student leader. So how did you decide that you wanted to take on a leadership role with a student organization as part of your second year journey?
So I will admit I was very unsure at first. Married, 2 kids, one on the way in August. So I would say I'd probably have somewhat of a full plate already. Nate Carlson actually gave me a nudge, and I'm extremely grateful for it because we talk all the time. He owns a few restaurants, and we talk entrepreneurship all the time. I've told him some of my ideas, what I thought, and I even learned about, kind of my end goal, hopefully the next 5 years down the road, and that's entrepreneurship through acquisition. John Dangle, one of our cohort members, actually had mentioned it to me. And I had the opportunity in this past year to really learn a ton about it. And I knew the opportunity to be a part of this with Hannah and help lead this group would kind of put my feet to the fire to, one, learn more about ETA, and to hopefully pursue that opportunity, but also just to teach more people about it. I'm absolutely obsessed with the thought of buying a small business. And I know they teach it at the big schools. We teach it a little bit at Darden. And I really want to try and get the word out there about what it is, because I can already look at our cohort and I can already tell. I can just pick through each class and just say, wow, this person would be an amazing person to do a small business, or maybe even be go in on opportunity together. So really just the aspect of selfishly learning more about it, but then also, teaching more of our cohort about what entrepreneurship through acquisition is, and hopefully having Darden, be a bigger factor in this community.
I appreciate your mentioning ETA, entrepreneurship through acquisition. It does feel like there is a growing interest in this particular topic, at least in recent Executive MBA classes. And you may know, and for our listeners' knowledge, there's actually kind of a regional entrepreneurship through acquisition conference that happens, a symposium of schools in the Mid-Atlantic region get together for this conference every year. And not so distant past, it was at Darden. Sometimes it's down in North Carolina, but nevertheless, it's a cool idea. I will also say it's not something I knew at all about before coming to business school environment, I should say, in my role. I'd never even heard of it. I had no idea that this was a thing that people did. So maybe the same for many of our listeners. So that's great. Well, Hannah, how about you? How did you decide that I'd like to be a student leader, and that's how I want to spend some of my time as a second year student?
Well, I came to Darden thinking that my goal would be by the end of school I would like to launch a business. I grew up with a dad who was a serial entrepreneur. I'm now married to an entrepreneur. It's a very crazy but normal lifestyle to me, and I knew a lot of the pros and cons of being a business owner or owning your own business, and have always had that desire. And that was part of the reason I wanted to come to business school, is to get exposure to those areas of business that I haven't worked as closely in. And I realized when I got to Darden that not as many students as I was expecting had entrepreneurship on their mind. And through conversations that I had in the first couple of months of the program, I saw those thoughts actually shift. And students become more open to the idea of either starting their own business or doing ETA or joining a startup. And I realized the broad reach that this entrepreneurship club could have within our program. I think there's so many opportunities to use either entrepreneurship or intrapreneurship. If you are at a company you don't necessarily want to leave, but you want to lead the charge in developing a new department or a new product. I think there's so many skills that you can learn from being exposed to entrepreneurship. And then Johnny and I talk about this a lot, that we want this club to be a great resource to our cohort, whether they want to start a business this year or in 10 years. There's so many alumni that maybe they left Darden and started at a big company right off the bat, but 10 years down the road, they're now entrepreneurs. And we have an opportunity to connect with them and learn from the alumni as well as our own student base. And there's quite a few students who are in our program who have already exited businesses. I mean, it's amazing what people have already accomplished, since the majority of our class is further along in our career. So once I knew about the opportunity to be a leader in the entrepreneurship club, I just thought it would be an amazing way to get more connected with like-minded students and help convince some that maybe weren't even thinking about entrepreneurship. But I will say, I have a business idea I'm working on right now and planning to launch it within the next couple of months. And I've just been blown away at the number of students who have, one, dropped everything to help me as soon as I've asked. I have such a wide array of experiences to pull from. And these students have helped me save months of time and research, money that I probably would have spent and not realized I didn't need to. And they're so energized and willing to help because that's their area of expertise and background. And at the same time, I've had students reach out and offer to help that I didn't even think to ask. I think that's one of the coolest parts about being at Darden is just the energy and willingness that students want to bring to help their fellow classmates. So I saw a lot of opportunity with this club. And I think between Johnny and I, we kind of cover two different areas of entrepreneurship, and we enjoy learning along as well as just leading the club.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll have to get you back on the podcast to talk about this business idea. I'm not going to put you on the spot right now, so it might be a little too soon. And you probably have a whole global marketing campaign planned for this idea. So we'll get you back on the show.
All right, cool. I'll hold you to that.
Well, entrepreneurship is one of these sort of ongoing things that I will speak personally. I think Darden has tremendous resources in this area. So enjoyed kind of talking with student entrepreneurs through the years. So we feature people as they've been exploring ventures and going through the early stages. Hey, I've got an idea, trying to figure out, if this has legs, and participating in the E-Cup and winning in the E-Cup, which is the entrepreneurship competition at the University of Virginia. There's 3 stages. It seems like there's a growing number of Darden teams across all the MBA formats every year in that competition. And it's been great to kind of see students maybe come in, not know too much about this, get intrigued by it, and maybe just even choose to enter just to see what happens. Hannah, I want to pick up on something that you mentioned. You mentioned coming and being kind of surprised that there weren't more people thinking about this, but all of a sudden it feels like maybe there's a little bit more emerging interest in entrepreneurship in your class now that you're a little bit further along. Do you feel like anything kind of has sparked that a bit? Is it just conversations? Is it the curriculum? What would you attribute that to?
So I think there's actually 2 things. I was thinking about this the other day. One, I almost think this is a global shift in the way we think about work because of the pandemic. And I think so many more people are open and willing to explore opportunities that are different than what they did the past 10 years. I think there's so many tools and resources available now to entrepreneurs that while it's not easy in any way to start a business or run a business, I think there's so much opportunity to take that leap and try something out. I think one of the other points that comes to mind is the emphasis that Darden has placed in a lot of our classes on creating the life that you want. I was actually just talking to my dad about this, and he was like, I do not remember this in my MBA program that we were talking about this however many years ago that was. But at the end of the day, it's your life. You need to create the life that you want. And it doesn't mean following a set career path, and you may zig and zag, or why not try out a new career, a new industry, or starting your own business. And I think that's really sparked a lot of people in our class to start thinking about what are they passionate about, what do they want to spend their time doing, and also getting exposed to other students in our program and learning about problems they experience and start thinking about how can we solve those problems. So I think it's just a whole new chapter for entrepreneurship and access to starting your own thing. It's a pretty cool time to try starting a new venture.
And Johnny, I'm curious, like, what is it about entrepreneurship through acquisition, which there's all kinds of stuff you can read about when it comes to entrepreneurship through acquisition. I mean, there's search funds, there's people that just go out and, find a small business. They look at it, they think, oh, I can do something with that. I can maybe help that grow and increase the valuation of that business. I mean, lots of different ways to approach that. What about it resonated with you?
So I've always been interested in entrepreneurship, but I never could think of I feel like a great idea. All the great ideas I could think about, my wife would shoot down pretty quick. So I knew there may be another route that I'd probably need to go. But in all honesty, it's just the opportunity to learn from people who've done it. Shout out to Chris Hartman, EMBA 16. We actually had on. We had a Zoom with him about a week ago. He bought a small business in Charlotte, North Carolina, commercial scale company, American Scale. And I had the chance to talk to him kind of before I had gotten to Darden, and as I was kind of learning more about ETA. And the more people I talked to, it just kind of sold me on the concept. And I'm more interested in kind of industrial business, like dirty businesses. My dad and his 7 brothers and father owned a manufacturing company here in Charlotte. Used to be calendars. They grew it to start doing journal books where they put, when I was down in Darden for a month, the journal book that they gave us, I turned over the back and his company's logo was on the back. And I forgot that I haven't really told many people about that, but that was kind of one of the moments of wow, that's weird. And as I was starting to think about Darden, I'd always thought about that time, but I'd always seen what my dad's company had, with the workers that they had and the people who would come for Thanksgiving and Christmas and how close knit that small business was. And it just got me really interested in the space. Like I said, the more and more people I talked to, it just kind of sold me on the opportunity.
All right. Well, lots of things happening here. Dreaming, imagining what's to come. That's in my opinion, I think that's one of the best things about where y'all are in the program, because you've largely knocked out most of the core curriculum. You're now starting to take electives, and it is definitely one of those times where the sort of next chapter in people's careers starts to take on more shape. So they're thinking about launching a venture or making a transition, taking on a new role, new opportunity, new company. The rubber's really meeting the road with that. If they're looking to climb, this is a time when they're really maybe activating that network within their company and starting to have maybe more serious conversations about where they would like to be. And that all comes with kind of the second year in the program and the sort of typical career timeline for an executive MBA student. So we got to get you both back here on the podcast to talk about all of this. So, and I also love the fact that both of your stories kind of have this personal dimension to it. You have people that, small business owners or entrepreneurs in your own life, and it's rubbed off on you or set an example for you. And there's a nice personal streak through both of your stories. So I wonder, as you look forward to the year ahead, I'm sure we've got some folks, here who are looking to join the Executive MBA Class of 2024 starting in August. And curious about the club. Like, what are you hoping to accomplish in the year ahead, Johnny? What's on your mind when you think about Entrepreneurship Club? Where would you like to go in the coming months?
So one is obviously expand the knowledge about ETA, but I think just kind of how Darden looks at small business. I think it's important to note that there are a lot of great Darden alumni who've either started just small businesses and have done great things for their family and their community, or gone through ETA and bought small business and communities. When you walk the Darden halls, I remember we're in LR1, you see all these very accomplished people, VPs of Pepsi, CEO of whatever company. But for me, I think it'd be awesome to see some small business owners up there one day. So really having, our cohort as well as, future cohorts learn more about the impact of small business and just the great things that the Darden community has done in that space. Really, for me, would be amazing.
All right. And Hannah?
Yeah,
what are you hoping? All right.
Yeah, 100% back up what Johnny said. We've talked about this many times, but I think there's a huge opportunity to continue to build out and promote the entrepreneurs that have come through Darden. Darden has the Batten Institute, which is a phenomenal program and place for resources for entrepreneurs, whether you're currently in school or you're looking for funding in 10 years. I think there's still opportunity to connect the Executive MBA program with the Batten Institute even further. And it's exciting to see new initiatives and steps that are happening just this year that we get to be a part of and help shape. And I just filled out my electives bidding process for the rest of the year, which is insane that it's all the way through Q10. But the number of specific entrepreneurship electives is just amazing, that you can have dedicated resources to focus on a venture you want to start or talk about specific parts of entrepreneurship that I know I would probably spend so much time researching, and now I can actually have experts sit down and help me, and I get class credit for it. Is amazing because that's in the real world. That's what I'm going to be doing. And Darden totally understands that and setting us up to be successful once we graduate. I think Johnny and I will just be recruiting as many people into those classes as we can over the next year.
Well, it feels like every year that I've been here, certainly the elective offerings have grown for Executive MBA students. We've had over 40 electives offered over the past couple of years. And that's a lot for a student population of about 135 or so students taking electives at any given time in the Executive MBA program. Always about 6 or 7 entrepreneurship focused electives, maybe even more than that at this point. Everything from like effectual entrepreneurship to entrepreneurial thinking, to entrepreneurial finance. You could do an independent study if you want to work closely with a faculty member on a business idea that you have. Starting new ventures. That one is always popular. I'm sure the list goes on. There's been kind of a couple courses about disruption, and y'all are also in Pack 2 now, which is the brand new second installment in the professional advancement course. The first one's in Q1. Now y'all are in the second part of the course, and there's several modules focused on venturing. I think is that right, Hannah?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I was thinking about Jim Collins had shared the Pack 2 course, professional advancement course. He said that it was we're the only top program that's actually instilling some sort of program like this for our students. And you select different modules to focus on for the summer quarters. And it's actually related to what you're going to do in life. And it's dedicated time to focus on activities, whether for Johnny and I, it's working on whatever our venture is. We put together a plan and actionable steps and actually make sure that they get done. And we have a mentor to give us feedback and guide us along. You can do networking. You can actually work on your resume. You can mock interview. Very, very specific skills and action steps that I think a lot of times, especially in our busy and hectic schedules, we can easily put to the side or rush to think about it a month before graduation. And we're doing it in the middle of the program where it's most important. So I think that's pretty cool. And highly beneficial that we're spending time focusing on that.
Johnny, are you enjoying professional advancement course 2?
Yeah, it's really required me to put pen to paper a lot of my ideas. So I think that's been the exciting thing. And then Jason Brewster from the Batten Institute, really getting in the room with him and getting his feedback, and even some of the resources he's brought. Our last OGR, he brought someone in the venture space, and we kind of all had the chance to sit down and spitball. And he provided me 2 or 3 names just from that 30-minute meeting, people I can go reach out to. Some people here in Charlotte that are in the ETA space. So it's been a great opportunity. I've loved it.
Yeah, last OGR, to follow up on what Johnny just said, we had a meeting Friday morning before classes got started for the weekend, and 15 people were in the room, or 15 students, and Jason and then Damon DeVito from Batten Institute gave us feedback on our ideas, and each person only had, it was kind of a fast, quick round robin feedback session. And the amount of feedback I got in 5 minutes was more, things to consider, questions, thoughts, people I should talk to, more than I had even thought or considered in the past month. And they're just a wealth of information and connections. And to be able to have them at our fingertips it's huge. I mean, that will be a resource that lasts us for a long time.
Yeah, I was. What a time to be interested in entrepreneurship. Just over those 2 days, Thursday night there was a venture capital panel, which we talked about here on the podcast. But incredible discussion. I learned. I've been to a few of these panels at this point. I felt like I learned about the industry like at a real nuts and bolts level in a way that I had not previously. Just how the money works and all this kind of stuff. And of course, then y'all had Friday morning with Jason and Damon, and MJ Tom's another person who, if you are working with the Batten Institute, you'll get to know very well, and is in a lot of different conversations related to entrepreneurship at the Darden School. She was up here on Thursday night. I was so glad to see all of that happening because that group has been working to try to have a bit more presence in Roslyn with our Executive MBA students, and of course the part-time program coming along here too. A few more students for them to connect with as well. So I'm excited about the trend lines here. So we ask everybody kind of the same last question, a piece of advice that you would share with folks as they think about Darden and maybe taking this step with their careers. Hannah, what would you share?
I think 2 pieces of advice. I would say 1, if you're like me and you keep having this voice in the back of your head that is pushing you to apply, and you realize you keep exploring MBA opportunities, then apply. Don't talk yourself out of it. At least go through the interview process and meet as many alumni as possible. I think that's what I'm sad to think that maybe that would have held me back from actually going forward, is talking myself out of it. So I'd say listen to that voice in your head and actually do it. Push submit on that application. I'd say the second one, I remember listening to some of your podcasts, Brett, when I was going through the application process, and I reached out to a couple of specifically women through LinkedIn after hearing their interviews. And so I would encourage anyone, especially if you have a marketing background or maybe you have a non-quant background and are nervous about business school, reach out to me and I'm happy to chat with you. That was very reassuring and helpful. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised too how responsive and eager to talk to you a lot of the current students will be. So I'm happy to chat anytime you want.
Well, thank you, Hannah. And Johnny, you get the last word here. Word of advice, something you would encourage our listeners to consider as they think about their MBA journeys.
I think there's no better time than now. I really thought about this and was probably pretty fearful at first when I thought about committing to the thought of this. And then kind of like, to me, it seemed like, you're never prepared for it. And just similar to this, like you can never fully be prepared for it. But the people you kind of go along, this journey with really make a huge impact on your experience, really get you through it. I don't think anyone could coast through this. I don't think anyone, absolutely crushes it. I think we all lean on people, lean on our teammates, like throughout this, 2-year journey. And it's amazing. So if you're fearful, commit to it. There's no better time than now.
Yeah, the thing that we always stress with folks, and we're never quite sure how this sounds to people, but I do think of this as the truth, is one, there's no perfect time, right? Your life will always be complex. There'll always be a million things going on, particularly as, where people are when they're thinking about this program. There's just a lot happening. But then two, there's just a leap of faith aspect to this. Just kind of a belief that this is what I want to do, and I'll figure it out. You're not going to have perfect information. You're not going to know everything. There's going to be an ambiguity, some uncertainty along the way. Life will happen, work will happen, school will happen, all at the same time. And you know what? 21 months later, you'll graduate. And that's just the journey for all of our executive MBA students. But you find a way through it. And typically, that way involves a lot of support from folks at home and folks at work, and also from your classmates. Nobody does this on their own. So, Hannah, Johnny, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's so great to have these conversations with you and your classmates as y'all move into these leadership roles. Can this really be the case that y'all are in the exam period for quarter 5? How did this happen? It's so amazing. Congratulations on all that you've accomplished thus far in the program.
Thanks, Brett. It was great chatting with you.
Yeah, appreciate it, Brett.
And that was my interview with Johnny O'Boyle and Hannah Solomon, 2 leaders of our Executive MBA Entrepreneurship Club here at the Darden School of Business. As always, if you have any comments, suggestions, requests, anything you'd like for us to cover here on the podcast, we're all ears. We can be reached at exec, that's EXEC, MBA at darden.virginia.edu. Until next time, stay safe, be well, and thanks for listening.